All right, welcome back, everyone. And Giallo movies, they just end.
It's kind of like when Homer Simpson is off the cliff, falls off the cliff, and it says boink 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 boink.
That's the way it works, and we are all better for it. So we just tasted 2 flavors of Italian Giallo, and from two of the all-time master chefs in the genre, Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento. And again, both of these were first-time viewings for me, genius. But before we talk Don't Torture a Duckling and Tenebre itself, Giallo it's a genre that I know, but my list of films on it is very little. And I'm not sure what some horror fans out there, I know some will say it's horror adjacent potentially, but for me it's always been a horror genre.
Absolutely. Giallo is horror. Giallo by itself, whether it's one of either the classification, because you can break it down into 3 different types of Giallo. You can either break it down in the mystery whodunit Giallo, in the conspiracy something ill forces like Suspiria Giallo, where it's not necessarily one killer but like a coven, spoilers, or like the sexy thriller Giallo, and but they're all violent and they all deal with murder and they all deal with copious amounts of nudity and blood, and if that's not the essence of good slasher horror, then I don't know what is.
It's basically And Then There Were None, but in a very sexy way.
Yeah, it's 10 little sexy Indians.
That's American Giallo, totally. But we always kind of joke, not even joke, but kind of making that connection of like Friday the 13th, the original one.
Could be American Giallo because the killer with black gloves, it's more of a mystery whodunit aspect. While it's not bathed in bright color, it is bathed in dark color. It's very dark and very cold. And there's sex and there's nudity and there's a killer killing people. So I don't know. I think there needs to be more synth to call it maybe Madman. If it was my Madman, it might be like Fabio Frizzi's Lord of the Campfire telling of the horror.
I would be totally down with the Giallo version of the Madman Mars.
Steve?
I'm curious how any of you would. I think if you add anything like that to any that classiness almost of it, because
but see, that's the thing, it needs to have a more mystery aspect of as opposed to a slasher, because like in American slashers we already know who the killer is, as opposed to like later entries of
I was gonna say, because the original films, Friday the 13th,
the original we don't know. Even same thing with Black Christmas, we know it's Billy, but we don't really know if it's Billy,
right?
So I think there's a lot. I think people who dismiss Giallo but love slashers, I think like if you just take that veneer, then you're going to see that you will really appreciate and enjoy the slashers, especially if you like things like Phantasm. Because another earmark of Giallo is just a lot of what the fuck, a lot of like dreamlike imagery or settings or camera angles or something where you're constantly off balance, where even you're like, this is a regular flick, but it's also fucking with my head. If a psychological slasher is a good Giallo.
And do you think that's why some people argue it's not necessarily horror?
See, I don't get that argument, because that's 100% horror. I mean, with the amount of blood that's in Giallo movies, there's not a single bloodless Giallo movie. It's supposed to be about murder and crime. So I think all Giallo movies fall squarely into horror. I don't know the argument that it's not horror. I can't see that.
Well, and it's funny because I mentioned that because I had heard of Don't Torture a Duckling. I knew of its reputation for the most part.
See, I knew of its reputation. I heard of its reputation that it's hardcore, but I'm thinking because there's a lot of animal abuse, and that's why I haven't watched it. Because I like Giallo films, like especially as of recently, not recently being in the last 10, 15 years, right?
Sure.
That I'm like got a further appreciation, and I started like really watching City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, Deep Red, Suspiria, Creepers, all those stuff.
I will make arguments. I don't think that like Creepers, Suspiria, Suspiria or any of them, or more giallo? I would actually put them in a separate category.
I don't know. I'm gonna argue with Suspiria and Creepers, because also another hallmark of like the whole giallo is a foreigner outside getting mixed into this whole thing, and Suspiria falls into the conspiracy giallo with the whole like still camera angles and dream logic. And then what was the other one that you said might not
Phenomenon.
be? Phenomena.
Creepers.
Okay, again, you have the outsider, right?
True,
You have
true.
the unknown killer killing people with the
True.
black gloves. You have the bombastic synth score.
Yep.
And you have the dreamlike camera angles.
Okay, I'll listen
So
to it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say Creepers is fairly in giallo.
I will do that. So let's then talk about a film that is definitely one that you cannot argue whether or not it's giallo, and that is Don't Torture a Duckling.
This movie is wild. Okay, I don't even know where to start with this one.
Let's start at the beginning, because within the first 15 to 20 minutes...
We're digging up a dead baby in the very first opening scene, and even though we don't have the black gloves, we still have this black goo.
Yes, it was mud versus the black gloves, and that's immediately, I was like, I liked a little bit of a variation on this, and it even goes a little bit into possible supernatural shenanigans.
Yeah, with the witch aspect.
Yes.
And we've seen witch aspects in a lot of giallo, especially Argento stuff.
Yes.
So it's not that far off to believe. But the fact that there's really no that the supernatural element itself is a red herring, that is all tied into Catholicism and abuse and like sexual repression and sexual like exploration. It's a fucked up movie.
How did this movie affect you, Genius? When you were watching it, did you go through a journey at all? Take us on a tale.
I ain't gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna be 100% honest. This movie gave me a weird boner because, like, okay.
Oh,
so
boy.
first off, we're introduced to the parent.
One of the weirdest churches I've ever seen, by the way, too, with the skeleton.
Yeah.
And the Grim Reaper, basically.
Well, that's a dope church. That's Santeria Church. But even the fact that they even said that witchcraft and the church go hand in hand in this village, you know. So that's. But it was a weird movie because we're introduced to one of the main characters who we think is a witch or a red herring, and she is stunning. What was her name? Bobby Boucher or something like that. Bobby Boucher, you put your clothes back on. But I like being naked, mama.
It's the devil. It's always the devil.
No, so Barbara Boucher, I think her name is, and she's over there, and she's absolutely gorgeous, and she's, I mean, just stunningly beautiful. And you're there like, okay. But she seduces children in such a playful and yet not playful way, where you're like, something is wrong with her. Do not diddle kids. Do not diddle kids. Because she's over there like, do you like my body? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, right? And she goes, do you want to sleep with me? And then he goes, yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, right? But then I'm like, you're seducing a 12-year-old kid. Stop this. Stop this. Stop this now. And she keeps on. And she never, like, full on, like, seals the deal.
I'd like to think there would have been a stopping point.
Right. I think she's, like, just fucking with them. But at the same time, that's terrible. You're sexually abusing these children. Like, not as much as the Catholic Church in this movie, but at the same time, like, our hero, ladies and gentlemen, but she's the red herring. Yep. I thought it was her the whole fucking time.
So did I. I mean, it lines up I needed an adult in the room at that point. And
Yes.
I was so unnerved and unsettled, and I'm like, I'm only about 15 minutes into this movie. What else is going to happen here?
Right. Now, if he just came in and he brought the orange juice and she was like, hey, okay, cool. You like what you see? Get out of here, you perp. Right? Something like nonchalant about it. But the fact that she's like, oh, hey, ooh, you know, and it's just like, stop it. Like, take him out of the room and put me into it, and then we're okay.
We're solid.
We're good. We're good.
Deal
Consenting
sealer.
adults, right? But, like, no. And then it just gets worse because then we see the kids who we think, like, okay, they're kids and they can do no wrong and nothing bad can happen. And for those of you who met kids, know that that's bullshit because kids can be wonderful, but they can be assholes at the same time.
Well, and I was also on the impression that maybe we were going to go on a Goonies-esque adventure with all these kids.
With the kids, because they're over here having shenanigans. First of all, I wrote, fuck that kid with the slingshot because he killed that lizard with it. Fuck that dude. But second of all, they're over there shenanigans and hey, let's skip school and here have my cigarette. And you think that all you're waiting for is dun 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 right? And then no,
don't get that.
no. We see like, the prostitutes from the city are coming. That they're being delivered. It's Hordash, and they all just come in and they just watch it. And then there's Giuseppe.
And of course, in a small town, we're going to have the village idiot.
The village idiot.
The fool.
Giuseppe.
Another red herring.
Giuseppe is a pervert. Giuseppe is a pervert. And he's like, come back here, kids. I'll get you. And the next thing you know, dead kid. And you're like, Jesus Christ, Giuseppe.
Which makes me believe that Stephen King must love this movie. With all the dead kids in this movie, they were just piling up. It was
I know,
unnerved me.
And the fact that, like, okay, one dead kid is bad enough, then another dead kid, and then another dead kid, and then another dead kid, and then all these kids, and then you just keep getting red herrings and more red herrings, and the fact that the town is such a horrible place in itself with the superstition and the whole town mentality justice, theoretically, you could put that stuff in today and it would still work. I mean, how many times have, like, we as a society bomb blasted somebody because we thought that they were, like, either a diddler or they're a kid killer or something when it comes out that they weren't, right? And that's what happened to Giuseppe. Like, yeah, he was a creep and he was a perv, but he didn't do anything illegal.
No,
he had consent to peep, right? He had peeping consent. So, like... And so when they came out, everybody's like, fuck you, Giuseppe, I'm going to kill you, you know? That was bad enough. But then when the sexy witch versus sexy witch versus sexy witch, right? When the sexy witch came in, the other sexy witch who, like, she goes, I killed the kids, I did it. I'm like, there's our killer. Now we're getting more shenanigans. And she goes, I put a hex on him. And then, nope, another kids turned up missing and more kids turned up missing. And I was like, God damn. But the scariest thing about that, the most disturbing scene in this movie, I think, was the whole weird juxtaposition of the town vengeance.
On said witch, yes.
On the witch. Because the witch, first of all, you knew ill shit was going on. Because once they let her out, even the cops are like, we need to keep her here for like 2 more days.
Yep.
And they're like, but she's innocent, let her go. Like, no. We need to keep her here. And they were 100% correct because they knew the town. And you know what's bad? When the minute you walk out, old ladies are spitting in the other direction.
Spitting, yes.
And I was like, oh no, it's Jisk. Right?
It's a bad sign. And then we get one of Fulci's best scenes in terms of, like you said, the contrast that's on screen with the fart rock music that's going on in the background, which any other time, I'd love that song.
Right.
But when you contrast it with the way they were slowly circling in on her,
menacingly,
and the bits of violence that hit.
Hardcore, and you saw the chains rip the flesh from the face.
They all have their moments, which is the most probably just scariest part of that. And like you said, it's a very intimate scene. You get the elements of the gore, and it really hits hard.
It's because everything else is like mystery and what the fuck and funny lines and all this stuff, and then it takes a shift and just gets brutal and it gets mean, and then with the juxtaposition of the and when they're getting beat, and then next thing, we made love in my Chevy van, and that's all right. It was very Last House on the Left, where such horrible, despicable shit is going on, juxtaposed with happy, soft AM gold music, and I like that. I mean, I'm not saying I liked what I saw. I mean, because it was just horrible shit, but I liked what I saw because it was artistic, and it was a good choice.
It's a memorable scene.
Yes, it was.
And I had, technically, of all the things I wanted to talk about, there were 2 scenes. That was one of them, and then the ending, of course, because the ending kind of threw me off, but I was watching it, and I was just being enthralled by it.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
It cast a spell on you.
Much like the witches did.
Right.
And then the mystery deepens even further. We get more red herrings.
More red herrings and more red herrings. And I was trying to follow along.
Are you the person that's trying to solve the mystery as it goes along?
Only when it's a mystery movie.
Okay.
If it's a mystery movie like during Knives Out, I was trying to solve the mystery because it's what you do in a mystery movie. During Giallos, you try and solve the mystery. But I don't try to solve the mystery on a regular basis unless like it's touting itself as a mystery. And so with all these red herrings, I'm trying to solve it. Like even with Scream, I'm trying to solve the mystery to see who the killer is. And it's not necessarily to say, I got it. It's just, you're going along on this mystery ride.
You're involved.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, it has to be Giuseppe because he killed 2 kids and he's crazy. Yeah, I guess it's not Giuseppe. All right, it has to be the sexy witch because because she said she'd kill. And
We saw her with all the
we saw all the pins and
Yep.
she's doing all the stuff from the get, and she's always been there. But here's the worst part about the sexy witch thing. It wasn't even the beat down. It was the fact that, and I even wrote in my notes, the fact that she's over there, she's a sexy witch, and she's dying in this gutter, and she's trying to help, and she's asking for help, and all these cars
keep passing by.
perfectly see her. They
Yeah.
see her, and they just keep on going by. And I'm like, you want ghost witches? Because that's how you get ghost witches. If you beat a witch in a cemetery and leave her dead, and then another, that's exactly how the town gets haunted.
That's a town you move away from.
Exactly. The crops are going to start dying. Like,
The milk's gone bad.
the milk's gone bad. Kids are gonna get disappearing again, and it's not gonna be the priest this time. You know, it's terrible things, and the fact that all this had already happened to her, and the fact that she went to this because she got molested by the priest, by
Yes.
the Catholic Church, and everybody turned a blind eye.
It's a cycle.
It's a whole cycle of violence, and that's what I like about Giallo. Is there's a lot of shit beyond the weird dialogue, beyond the overdubbing, beyond the stylistic. There's a lot of heavy shit in this movie.
We both grew up Catholic, so any kind of movie like that ties into that is always going to have a little bit more to us.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk the ending, or other thoughts before we get to the ending. Do you have anything on there that we need to speak on?
This was a dread-inducing movie.
Oh yeah, no, it
I
was.
mean, and even when we think that the sexy witch is not like the red herring sexy witch because she's even not a witch, she just is bored.
Yeah,
right.
No, she's given the Lacey Underall treatment in Caddyshack, where they sent her to move away because she was
Because she's used a lot of drugs
and,
and yeah, and nobody in that town likes her or trusts her, and they think she's a witch and a whore.
Yep.
You know, just because she likes to be naked and seduce children. I'm okay with one of those things. Just one. No. No, because in the scene where she's like, "Hey," with the kid who was deaf and mute.
Yes.
I keep calling her deaf and dumb. Anyway, like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, you're straight up abducting a child, and I'm supposed to root for you, and I'm not supposed to think you're not the kid killer. Yep. They expertly made you not want to root for the sexy witch, like the sexy non-witch.
And as someone that is always wants to root for a sexy witch, that probably really hurts you.
I know. I was like, man, you're torturing all these poor sexy witches. What do these sexy witches do to you? Like, because like the real sexy witch, they beat her and like left her to die.
Yeah.
The non-sexy witch, they probably would have beat her because you know when she walked by, they're like, oh, whore, you know, and just all that shit. Because right, even though, but at the same time, we do not diddle kids. It's no good diddling kids.
No.
So, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I liked that whole aspect, that after the mystery, because really I thought when I didn't expect the priest.
I didn't expect the priest either.
And it was terrifying and shocking that even when he was about to drop the girl, she's still like kissing him on the cheek and holding on to him because she was simple and she didn't know any better. This guy who she trusts is about to drop her off a cliff, and even when the non-sexy or the sexy non-witch comes in and saves it, she doesn't want to go. She runs back to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Is that like a metaphor for even though how bad the church treats you, still people will come back to the church for that safety and security.
Yep.
Even though like terrible things, and people will defend such terrible things. I'm not saying all churches are bad.
Of course.
But
it's systematic. It's in there. And
so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Tortured Duckling, but I can see where people would be dismissed by it because of its slowness, because of its nonsensicalness at times, and especially with the weird dialogue. That's it. Giallos are definitely one you have to pay attention to.
And we talk about the discipline of international horror, and that's one of those things. You have to learn how to watch them, how to enjoy it ultimately. But the ending with the priest and I don't know if he went Fulci on this one, but I was not expecting that level of violence, even though the comeuppance was so earned.
Absolutely.
But I thought the movie was over, and I got up and I was going to get everything ready in the house.
Oh, there's still 20 minutes left.
And then that starts happening when you get the background and the backflashes of him with the kids and his rationale of why he's doing it. and then you cut to him being just his face scraping across the bottom as he's falling.
And even though you could tell it was a dummy, it's still, the gore effect was really really fun.
The cherry on top for me.
Yes, it was.
With that.
Yes, it
so
was.
yeah, check out. I hope you all enjoyed Don't Torture a Duckling.
Let us know if you didn't or did.
Yeah, let us know on that. But that leads us to a film with Tenebre, or how are you pronouncing it? The nice.
Tenebre.
Thank you.
Tenebre. Tenebre. Hey!
But this is of Dario Argento's work, and Argento is another familiar name in horror that is all over the place. His work is all sorts, but guaranteed, when you think Argento, you're not necessarily thinking a very safe film.
Right.
You know something gnarly is going to happen. It's probably going to involve an animal, and we're going to see some amazing visuals.
There's going to be some neck slicing. There's going to be some arterial spray.
Yes.
There's going to be some major hardcore violence. We didn't get eye trauma with Fulci.
I was shocked. Actually.
I was
I
shocked
don't know
too.
though. I think as the face has fallen,
there was some eye trauma there, but it wasn't like stab in the eye like a lot of other ones. It wasn't like zombie.
Subtle Fulci on this one, which is good.
Pseudo-chi.
Yeah, he went field-chi.
Half-chi.
Half-chi. I like that. But with Argento and Tenebre, this was another film that I was familiar with. I love the song. The song is so friggin' funky and wonderful.
Both songs, both music in both these movies were fucking top notch.
Rix Ortolani did Don't Torture a Duckling, who is also known for Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be surprising that we get the beautiful imagery or the music out of that, but
the music at Tenebre was rad. I wrote it on my notes like this music is fucking rad like 3 times.
It's the one that makes you move ultimately, and this film is built around an author coming to Rome to publicize his new book,
and he gets wrapped in a mystery.
Yes,
yeah, it's basically murder he wrote.
It totally is murder he wrote.
But he's an asshole for riding his bike like that. Who fucking rides their bike in the middle of a fucking freeway like that? Fuck that, dude.
That was
a dick move. That was a dick move. Dick move.
You know what? It's Italy. It's different. It's just one of those things.
Speaking of Italy and different, we're opening up when he goes to first of all, he rides his bike down the highway to the airport.
Yes.
Okay. And then he leaves his bag unattended for a long time. And I wrote, so he's smoking a cigarette. I wrote another time,
another place. Pre 9/11, man, it was just a crapshoot. It was a Pandora's box. Everything was allowed in those times. But this is one of the great examples of course, recently, sadly, we did lose a great genre actor, someone that is in the very DNA of our podcast, the late, great John Saxon.
Yep.
I loved seeing him in this movie because...
I wasn't expecting it. His name showed up in the credit, and it was much like Bill Duke and Mandy.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, John Saxon's in this. Yes! I mean, he's going to wear his Jell-O toupee. It's going to be rad. He had his Jell-O toupee on, too.
And he is not playing a cop.
Or hero or a villain. He's playing a goddamn red herring side character. I was like, this is great, because you always see like a John Saxon, even in a supporting role, he's always a cop.
Of course.
Always a cop.
Of course.
Or he's a dirty criminal. But he's
always
never,
a heavy.
Just never a dude.
A public relations guy.
Right, never an agent.
It was so nice to see. And part of me was hoping he was the killer.
Me too. I thought he was, because the whole time he was like, there was even times the whole red herring, like, you like my new hat? It won't come up. I can run down a hallway and stab somebody with this hat, and it's not going to come off. And I'm like, God damn, John Saxon, you're just laying out there. He's like, you see my new gloves too? Look at these. Look at these. Look at the grips on these. I can hold 3 razor blades in each hand, and I'd be fine. I'm like, damn, John Saxon, that's some Jell-O confidence right there.
Complete confidence. And staying true with Jell-O, the straight razor is the item of choice, the kill weapon of choice, which is one of those things that kind of goes hand in hand, I think, with a lot of those.
But I wasn't expecting, before we even get a first kill, we have a random rape bum.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
Out of nowhere, like a rape bum. And it's just like, Jesus Christ!
It's why there's a discipline to watching these films, because things like that happen, and sometimes it's not expanded upon. It's just what it is.
I was like, stop it, Buck! That's not cool!
Do you think... We know there's the Amsterdam buck flower out there.
Do you think there's the Italian buck flower?
There has to be an Italian buck
Bucando
flower.
floor?
I hope. I really hope so.
Mamma mia. That's one of spicy meatball.
Say Scoozy.
Scusi. Hey.
And then say, ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
I need an Italian Buck Flower. I am not going to lie. If we can retrofit it, that's fine. But if he exists out there
Italian
now, oh my God, that would be wonderful.
Balfangu Puckerhead. You know, just like...
That's about all this movie was missing. Now,
it could have done it without the rape bum. And the fact that so many times this thing, it was almost like a bad porno start. Like,
well,
and this is like when gangbangs go bad.
There's probably even more maybe sexy time in Tenebre than there was in Don't Torture a Duckling.
There was a lot of nudity in these movies. I mean, there was a lot of nudity from just the sexy non-witch in Don't Torture a Duckling.
Oh, yeah.
But everybody was naked in this movie. Everybody was naked. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying, like, there was a time where I was like, this is a lot of fucking nudity.
Saxon's toupee had a full frontal scene that was cut out in deleted scenes. I mean, like, everyone had their spot in their moment. It's horrible. But I was shocked with this film. I shouldn't say shocked.
Spot of the Tuscan sun.
Ew. I watched this the first time on a Monday night, and it was pretty late at night for me, and I was anticipating just falling asleep to it, no worries, catch up. I was so involved with the movie because it was so, for me, more watchable than anything Argento's done that I've seen to this point, because it did have a little bit better of a narrative flow than a lot of the other ones that we've seen.
It was a more concise plot. It was a more A to B to C, as in something like Suspiria, where you got A to C to D to F to G to B to whatever.
Yeah.
This was more like, okay, there's a definite beginning, a middle, and end, and this is definitely more of a whodunit.
Yes.
I mean, this is an absolute whodunit to the point where, again, like in Torture a Duckling, I'm over there like, okay, I think it's got to be him. Nope, guess not. Okay, then like all the clues lead to him. Guess not.
Is it the ex-wife?
Right?
That's what I thought initially.
Is it Crazy Jane? Crazy Jane is crazy hot. Like, just... My goodness, just like, she's crazy.
I'm glad I didn't watch any of these with you at this point, because I had a feeling I would have been so uncomfortable with you just maybe making noises or shifting or just like,
I don't know. That bad. It's not 42nd Street. It's not like the time we were watching. Never mind.
Yeah, that's...
Hello. No. There's a lot of panning shots. There's like 10 minutes where you just get the whole layout of the house while this rad, sinister music plays, and your eyeball is thinking, okay, we're looking for something, and then nothing. Nope. And then like even scenes are red herrings in itself.
One of those shots, I think, and I'm the one where it almost looks like they pan outside of the house, they go down the floor. It took them like 3 days to shoot that, which I'm not shocked because of the way everything has been set up on that. And that's the other thing too. We always, I don't think we forget as horror fans, but I think a lot of normies out there don't understand that. Like Fulci and Argento are true masters of the craft. Like their compositions, the way everything is set up, and even in this one, the colors. It was bright. Yeah, like you could see things. Yeah. I was shocked.
Like a light blue.
Yes.
Like even when one of the sexy teens comes in, and she's wearing all yellow and pink and all that, everything was bright, which is not necessarily indicative, but it was just all over the place, all over the spectrum. But I liked it, and I also liked how progressive that this movie was. It was extremely progressive because there was a scene where where he's having a one-on-one with the reporter, and he goes, well, but in your movies you glorify violence. In fact, you go around killing all the deviants. And he goes, what do you mean, what deviants? He goes, all the homosexuals and like other sexual deviants. He goes, they're not deviants. He goes, they're not killing deviants. The killer is crazy. You're not supposed to like the killer. He's not killing deviants. He's killing people.
No,
consenting adults. And then he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, good job, Argento, because back in the day, that wasn't a popular opinion.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. In fact, he kind of like layers this film, which I really like.
Very layered.
I enjoyed that. But like I said, I was shocked at just how watchable this film was and just how immensely I enjoyed it.
You know what shocked me? To find a dog that doesn't give up like that. That dog did not fucking give up. He was like, nope. Went and tried something else. Nope. I'm surprised he wasn't trying to jiggle the handle like clever girl. You know?
I really wish I had thumbs here, folks.
He's trying to like bite the things. I was surprised he didn't break a window because like Fulci or Argento and Animals, they're either the heroes or the villains, and either of them have supernatural powers. They can do some shit.
I like that. I like
too.
that. And again, almost like little things that you have on your Argento checklist that you can check off here, but then it's applied maybe a little differently than what you're familiar with.
Yeah, I liked, and even though it was weird, the weird gangbang shots, the music was very odd but haunting. Mm-hmm. And you're like, this is not going to go where I think it's going to go, is it? Oh no, it is, right? I was not ready for that, but again, I enjoyed it. I thought this was great. I'll tell you what, spoilers. One of my favorite shots in the scene when I was like, that was a great shot, is when the reporter, who we think is going to solve the mystery and stuff. No, the cop. I'm sorry, the cop. The reporter was in there. He bends down to pick up a clue, and the writer is right behind him. Perfect silhouette shot.
Yes.
Perfect silhouette shot, and almost like just it was two people into one, and then he gets down and gets back up, and then it's perfect again. I'm like, that was a great shot. That was an excellent shot because I was like, ooh, it gave me like a good. I wasn't scared, but I was like, ah.
Arresting visuals, stuff that haunts you and sticks with you, and that with both of these films, I think, is there are images that I will never unsee now, and that I'm going to seek out again. Like, I will watch both of these films again.
Me too.
Ideally, I'd like to see it with a theater, but I think because they're more subtle films, I think these aren't the kind of films that people react like, like that, but...
But also not like
right,
Creepers.
Just, yes, Creepers was a great
Creepers
experience.
is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, very much so. But I think ultimately they would play well, but I think they also play in a more intimate setting like we were able to do with this.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for Shudder for allowing me to experience both of these films because I may not have otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of these Shudder double features is for both of us,
Something
I know.
new.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of new films that we haven't been able to vet before, which I really like. So final thoughts on Tenebre there, Genius?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope you did too. Like we
Yeah.
said, Giallo is not for everybody. It is an acquired taste. However, if you did dig this or you think you might be able to dig this, I would definitely suggest diving your toe deeper into Giallo. Make it fit on you like a nice leather glove. There is a couple of other ones that are good. Deep Red's a good one. The City of the Living Dead, Gates of Hell is a good one. From The Beyond is a great one. Deep Red, Suspiria, the Three Mothers ones. There's also some newer Giallos that are coming out that I thoroughly enjoy. If you like Giallo, I definitely suggest looking up The Editor, which is a great example of a parody and a loving homage to Giallo. And there's this one that I heard about that I still want to see, but there's these two French directors, and they're making modern new Giallo. And I think their latest one is called Let the Bodies Tan.
I have heard of that, yes.
So...
It's
a lot of Giallo out there, a lot of good stuff. And let us know what you think. What are some of your favorite Giallos? Or what do you think some of the good American Giallo? I would like to see that.
It has a lot of sugar, is what that has. Now, I know our next Shudder shout-out double feature, we are going to finally get to the creatures. Genius has been dying for a creature feature.
I'm ready for Scurry or Scary.
So we will take a look and see what's available, but if you have some ideas, and also I should say, this particular double feature came courtesy of Jesse Card, who made recommendation on this. So Jesse, thank you, because I'm legitimately thanking you for this, because these are two films I'm much better now having seen and experienced.
And we hope you enjoyed them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we did. I did.
Oh, absolutely. So until our next Shudder shout-out double feature, this is Greg D.
I'm Genius McGee.
And we will see you in your dreams.
Not a deal breaker.